You need to know today. Stay with us to see all of this. Get your brollies ready for Storm Christoph. And should footballers be allowed to celebrate together? Now, tomorrow, Joe Biden will become the 46th President of the United States. This week, we're taking a special look at events in the US and what Joe Biden's presidency will mean for the country. Alongside Mr. Biden in the job will be Kamala Harris, making history as the first woman and the first Black and South Asian vice president. After last year's anti-racism protests, they have been elected after promising to make sure that Black people are treated fairly in the country. Newsround reporter Kizzy Cox has been to the city of Philadelphia to speak to kids who've experienced racism, to find out what they think about the future of America.
Philadelphia is a city with a long history dealing with racism. So for kids who live here, the events of 2020 were further evidence of what they already knew. Black people aren't treated fairly in America.
One of my schools, they had the Black kids on one side, the white kids on the other, and then the unknowns, which were biracial children, in the middle. That was the first time I ever experienced a teacher being outwardly against Black people in my life. She would tell the Black kids that we weren't gonna pass past that grade because we were too stupid, we were too dumb, we couldn't do it. She would sit by and let the white kids call Black students out of their names, call them the N-word. She wouldn't do anything, she would just sit there.
Tiara is not alone in experiencing racism at a young age.
I live in a mostly white neighborhood, so they suspected I was trying to break in to my house, but I looked like I was 12. It's not like I was an adult trying to break into the house or anything. It was my house. But my mom pulled into the driveway. They drove away as soon as they saw that my mom was white. I always think about what would have happened if my mom wasn't there, or what would have happened if she was Black.
Black parents teach their boys how to interact with police from an early age. At 13 years old, Chris already knows what to do if a car he's in is pulled over.
Number one, don't talk back to them, no matter what. Whether you're right or wrong, just follow their instructions exactly how they tell you. Well, when you stop the car, put your hands on the dashboard, so then they know that you're not holding anything as a potential weapon or threat.
In 2020, George Floyd died while being stopped by police. In cities across the United States, people protested against police brutality. 12-year-old Janiyah told me how she felt watching demonstrations over the summer.
I was surprised. I was very surprised. I was kind of like, happy that not only did Black people come together, but a few white people agreed on us. I was like happy about it because, it's like they really care.
After a small number of Black Lives Matter protests led to violence and looting, President Trump called for a show of support for the police. Once again, America was divided between those who demanded justice for Black people and those who believed what Donald Trump called law and order was more important. One of his supporters, Ella, whose dad is a police officer, believes the violence made things worse.
They could have went about it more peacefully because there was a few who were burning down buildings and things. And now other people are even more racist, which isn't okay. I think that the protests were out of control and they needed law enforcement, but some of the cops were corrupt and did not handle it right, and were a little too violent with the people there.
But many people compared the reaction of the police during Black Lives Matter protests to the way the mostly white crowd of Trump supporters were able to attack the home of American democracy. Sophia believes the police would have responded differently if a crowd of Black people broke into the Capitol building.
Our government system is racist because literally they didn't do anything about it. They had very few security guards blocking the Capitol building. They allowed these people to get in, break in. I know if it was BLM protesters, if they even got close to the stairs, they probably would have there would have been a whole army blocked off and throwing tear gas and everything to get them away.
Joe Biden says it's time for America to unite. Elected with Kamala Harris, the first Black and South Asian vice president, Many Americans are looking to them to tackle the problems of racism and police brutality. For Tiara, though, their election doesn't mean things will get better.
Him and Kamala, yes, they said Black Lives Matter, but when you really look at their past careers and the things they've done in the past, it seems more like pandering, like they were trying to get the black vote. Black Lives Matter, the group has asked for weeks for them to sit down and have a conversation with Biden and Harris, and there's been no response thus far. So personally, I don't think my life is gonna change that much.
Sophia is more optimistic.
I think that it's going to be like a beginning of a new journey, like a long journey, because there's a new president and he's not racist. And there's also a black woman vice president, so she will inspire him.
And we'll hear more from Kizzy talking about the US tomorrow. And we've got all the latest news on Donald Trump and Joe Biden over on the Newsround website. OK, moving on. Now, you may have noticed that the wind and rain is quite stormy this morning. That's because Storm Christoph is heading to the UK. The Met Office have given a flood warning to northern, eastern and central England, and people are being warned to stay away from high rivers. Next up to some football news, and Arsenal beat Newcastle 3-0 in the Premier League last night. It means Newcastle have now not won a game in over a month. Arsenal captain Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored twice, with the team celebrating their goals together. This goes against recent efforts by the Premier League to get players to avoid giving handshakes, high fives and hugs during the coronavirus pandemic. So we want to know, should close contact celebrations during football games be banned? Well, you've been telling us what you guys think about this over on the Newsround website. Summer got in touch to say, I think they can have a hug because they get tested before playing. But Ben disagrees, telling us, I think they should follow COVID-19 rules, which will inspire more people, since they might be someone's role model. And finally, another viewer says, I don't like how sports are allowed, where they are hugging and travelling everywhere, but children aren't allowed to go to school. It's really unfair, in my opinion. Thanks for those, guys. And sticking with footy, the former England women's boss, Phil Neville, starts his new job today as manager of Inter Miami in the United States. The American club is owned by Neville's friend, football legend David Beckham. He's left the Lionesses earlier than planned, which means he won't lead the GB women's team at this summer's Olympic Games. Well, that's all we've got time for today, but we've got loads more news over on the website, so check it out. See you soon.